Alright, Juniors. Now, this fan game was a fan game that many people were excited for. Many FNAF tubers you may watch probably had this in their most anticipated fan games lists. So you may come to wonder if I myself was super excited for Juniors, and to tell you the truth, no I wasn't. I never really saw many teasers for it. I think I only saw like one on Twitter like over a year ago, and that was the only piece of Juniors content I saw. Juniors would later show up once more for its release date. A lot of the big FNAF tubers did end up playing it. Now, there was something that happened prior to its release, being the pair from Annoying Orange. Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive into that whole thing, I'm not a drama channel, and let's see if Juniors was able to live up to its initial hype. So right off the get-go, we're given a tutorial on how this game is played, and I really like the presentation here. Love the little claymation models. After that, we're dumped straight into this game's story. We play as some guy, so I'll call him Luigi.
That's Mama Luigi to you, Mario!
And we're trapped in what I can only assume is limbo, and we meet up with... Oh my god, he looks like he was stung by a wasp. We wake up in this little hub area, and good lord, Paul Bear is looking vile in this PS1 N64 art style. You know what, let's see. Comment section, gonna need your help here on this one. Who wore it better, Paul Bear or PS1 Hagrid? Anyway, Paul Bear talks about a spooky ghost that is haunting Juniors and needs our help dealing with it. I knew King Boo was up to no good again. So, you hop onto this bed and we begin our traditional 5-night shift. So, the actual concept. I actually found this one to be very interesting. It's kind of like a ghost hunt. You know those TV shows you'd see on Discovery Channel where some random guy go to some abandoned prison in the middle of Scotland or something and get hyped pretending they're Hungrybox who just want to smash Turney? Well, it's like that, but with a FNAF coat of paint, really. You use the cameras to watch the animatronics and try to figure out who the spooky ghost is currently possessing. After finding out who it is, you need to document the information upon your laptop and move on to the next round. Sounds simple. So how exactly do I find who King Boo is currently possessing? Well, that's where the cameras come in. You see, starting on night 1, there are a handful of ways to discover who's the ghost by simply watching the cameras. So on night 1, the lights may flicker and later on handprints will show up on the camera lens, which are some hints as to who the ghost may be possessing. Oh yeah, by the way, if you die at any point, you actually get like a oil painting of whoever the ghost was possessing. And I just wanted to quickly point out that, man, these oil paintings, I think they're oil paintings anyway, really good looking. Now when it comes to the actual characters themselves, there's only 6 and they're all active on night 1. You have Freddy, who has human teeth, basically giving the first Sonic movie design a run for its money. Bonnie is now sporting sunglasses and looks like a nerd! Chica's wearing sleeping gear, and Foxy, well, Foxy. You also have the puppet and enragement child, who actually looks like a child, and yep, his face is still very punchable. These two have their own special gimmicks. Now, the actual designs of these guys, yeah, I like them. They go for a bit more of a realistic kind of look, on par with the showbiz animatronics than Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, these two have a bit of a contrast in design, with the original FNAF characters being more based around Chuck E. Cheese and Juniors being more on par with showbiz, as I've already said. So back to Puppet and Enragement Child. The puppet cannot be seen on the cameras, so you need to use this little button, which will allow you to hear audio, and when you hear a music box, that means the puppet is within a room. The same hints do apply with the puppet, so really this whole character just requires an extra step. Enragement Child is by far the easiest character to deal with, as he cannot be seen on the cameras. Unlike the puppet, he has no unique way of being seen though. So when you see his stability number glitching out, that means King Boo is possessing him. So yes, there is a stability number for every animatronic, and it slowly creeps down to 0. So you need to keep watch and make sure none of them hit 0, because this is the only way you can die in this game. So it's more or less like a ticking time bomb. I know some of you will probably say that, oh, you can die by answering incorrectly, but that's actually not the case, because it decreases the stability by a certain amount, and the further you progress through the game, that punishment becomes a lot more severe. So how do you deal with them exactly? You can call them to this room to the side of you, and you put a new chip inside and throw the old one away. I would advise to do this within the short downtime you have after discovering who the ghost was possessing. There is a slight chance that the animatronic you called is the possessed one, so really the strategy revolves around quick speed. Now, later into the shifts, there are some new gimmicks that are added, like on night 3, the ghost can move your camera around a little bit, and night 4, it will just shut off completely. The gimmicks will rotate, so like, for example, say that the night starts with King Boo, and he'll choose one of 4 clues, then after getting spotted, it'll pick a different clue. Yeah, you may have noticed that this game doesn't really take that long to go through. There's not exactly a whole shift you're working, really. The actual criteria to beat a single night is just guessing correctly, like a couple times. I believe the furthest it goes is 7. So, in actuality, it seems this game was designed in a way to be speedrun? Which, if that's the case, that's kinda cool considering most FNAF games aren't exactly good games to speedrun through. I don't know how well people can optimize a run for juniors, but this might not be a bad shout to actually try out, but then again, I'm not exactly a speedrunner, mainly for FNAF games myself, so I'm not too sure if it is a good speedrun game or not. Now let's talk about some issues I have with this game. One thing is, I really didn't feel that much tension in this game. The only tension value is with those ticking time bombs, but then again, they didn't really give me that feeling of dread until they were fairly low on power. But that only really happened on later nights like 4 and 5. I kinda wish that there was more ways that the game could throw you off your balance. Like, Enragement Child doesn't even feel like an Enragement Child, he's more of just child. His numbers will just go nuts when he's haunted, so I think he should have been at least on the cameras, like somewhere. You can already move your cameras down, so him being short isn't exactly much of a problem. He kind of feels like a bit of a last-minute inclusion, to be honest. There is also the tutorializing. This is a little weird, but there seems to be quite a bit of tutorials in the game, because it's trying to make that whole trial and error thing seem like not trial and error, but it also wants to be trial and error at the same time. It's weird. You get the tutorial at the very beginning, giving you, like, just running you down with the basics, but then you also have the tip system once you get into night 1. Wannabe Professor EGAD over here will tell you what you should be looking out for tonight, but it doesn't really teach you about the other things, it just sort of leaves that to yourself. I mean, for this style of game, yeah, you do kind of need a tutorial, but like, that's why you need a phone guy to sort of tell you what to do, but I don't know, it's just a little weird, and considering on how short this game is, I don't think it would really be much of a chore to have it be trial and error kind of stuff. Like, if you know what you're doing, the longest night in the game that isn't night 6 takes around 6 minutes to beat, so I don't think trial and error would exactly be too much of an issue here. So then comes night 6, which instead of it being the ghost hunting, it's now FNAF 2, but actually a lot easier. So if you've played FNAF 2, stare at the prize corner, throw the mask on every time someone's in the room, and give Foxy his dope of epilepsy. Also, pretty cool detail by the way, you actually wear Bonnie's face and not a Freddy mask. I'm pretty sure it's based on that fan theory a while back. So you do that for a little bit, and around 2:30ish, you'll flip up your laptop and watch as all the animatronics and some endoskeleton parts hop on a conveyor and some build-up music comes on. It's like to reveal the big bad, the final boss of the game. It's the Mangle. The final boss is the Mangle. You surprised? So at the end of some nights, you'll get a VHS tape which show a little animation, which is hinting at the existence of the Mangle. That's really about it, but the thing is like it's sort of revealed to you, you know, around night 2 that it exists. And I'm just sort of confused where this face even came from. Like, it just really just feels like a bigger version of the regular Mangle. And that's really about it. Like, I think something really cool would have been, like, instead of it just being like some big monster thing, I think it should have had, like, some parts, you know, like, of the actual suit of Bonnie, Freddy, Chica, Foxy, Puppet, Balloon Boy, all just sort of kind of poking out a little bit to make it look more, give it the whole body horror feel that I think Mangle probably should have had. I think that would make the design a little bit more gross, in my opinion, but it's fine. I like it anyway. Alright, so the actual boss itself. She's not that hard, to be honest. You do need to look at the cameras to deal with King Boo. Just stare at it and turn on the light and it's on its eyes and it'll go away. Mangle will have you flash her in the hallway, then throw the mask on when her owls look from you from the vents. This kind of gives me some Flumpty Night from Flumpty's 3 vibes. Actually, where it tries to combine gimmicks, but really this one just combines 2. I think this fight could have been a little more chaotic, considering that FNAF 2, out of the first 3 FNAF games, was the more chaotic of the bunch, but it's over rather quickly anyway. Like the classic little 6 AM fanfare, nice little throwback. And so, the game ends with the ghosts getting stabbed in the back. I'm not gonna ask about that logic, I'm kind of done at this point. And there we go, game's over. Yeah, honestly, like, the actual story itself is kinda boring. Really, all you get is, this is Paul Bear, spooky ghost is doing a thing, go and stop them. There's this whole, like, bonding moments with Paul Bear, and I just don't really care. Because there's nothing about this character other than he's using us as bait, because he's too much of a pussy to go to the afterlife himself. Honestly, this character just kind of exists, really just for an exposition dump. The ghost itself really feels kind of lame because it only starts talking to the player around night 5 and the final cutscene of the game. This is obviously because it seems they were planning for a sequel to this game that I would assume build upon the whole ghost and Paul Bear thing going on, but the whole drama that happened that surrounded Juniors probably prevented that from happening. Juniors would reopen like 5 or so years later, then go under some rebranding and state-of-the-art animatronics, being possibly the toy animatronics, and then Jeremy Fitzgerald is given the job and FNAF 2 happens, blah blah blah. Now there is some extra content, like a custom night and its many challenges. There is one custom night that is quite literally one of the hardest in the game so far, and I believe a couple of YouTubers out there have already beaten it. Really, it's just for bragging rights, but let's be honest guys, Five Nights at Freddy's custom nights were never really meant for bragging rights and aren't really gonna get you a girl or anything. See, what is gonna get you a girl is beating Big Wave Beach in Plants vs Zombies 2. Have a little Bonnie platformer game and that you can find some secrets in, and a joke sequel to the game being Seniors, where it just adds 2 extra joke characters you need to mess with in the night. Yeah, so the other 2 characters here honestly don't really scare you, or jump scare you, or kill you really. They actually screw you over. The box dog, or whatever it is, basically makes the stability go down a little quicker, and the other guy, which I don't know what it is, but it just gives you a bunch of ads that you have to take down because it obstructs your view. Honestly, I think that this would have been a lot better if these were a part of the base game, because I think, like I already mentioned earlier, it sort of lacks a lot of that tension, and these 2 really do add a lot more tension to the actual game itself, and they take a lot of high priority. This is some pretty good post-game content, so I'd say if you like the base game, go ahead and check these out. These are really, really good. Juniors? Yeah, it's pretty cool. The ghost hunting fits well with the franchise and the art style is really good. Night 6 is a fun little throwback. This game definitely could have been better in some aspects, but overall I think it's still a pretty fun time. I'd probably slap it in like a solid B tier. I think this ghost hunting mixed with FNAF formula stuff has a good amount of potential behind it, just needs a little bit of a push. And yes, I know, like, everyone in the comments is going to be putting, like, hey, funny Among Us. Stop, you're not funny. Among Us jokes were never funny in the first place. Anyway, that is all the time I have for today, so if you enjoyed this video, consider liking the video, and click the big red subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you so much. I have a Twitter account which you can follow simply by clicking the link in the description, as well as my Discord server, which you can also find a link within the description. Thanks everybody so much for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
My name is Walter Hartwell White. I live at 308 Negra Arroyo Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87104.